All right, one question for you, Jan. What should a founder do on a daily basis to improve his or her workflow on the computer?
Yeah, Rieke, thanks. That's the question of my life, I want to say. What you should do is basically keep a to-do list, and every day there should be a section in that to-do list where you kind of park everything that harms your workflows. So whenever during the day you have a problem and you notice something that is a little bit odd or kicks you out of your flow zone, then you go to that list and you write that thing down. So if there's a problem with your printer that annoys you, or if you need a new AI app that accepts screenshots or something like that, you just go to the list, jot it down, and then the other part of the equation is whenever you have some downtime and you feel like a break, you go to that list, you look at the problem that you have there, and some of them you will not have for the first time, and then you go out and solve them. I think that's one healthy habit that improved my workflow a lot over time.
That's amazing. I mean, at Curriculum Club, we love making to-do lists, so I love this advice. All right, but it's also very essential what you're saying. Don't fix it right away. Just keep it for later when the time is
Yeah,
right.
exactly. So for the longest part of my life, and still to this day, like often when I notice these little things that kind of like annoy me, then I go out and want to fix them immediately. Like I have this actual to do that I want to work on, but then I go out and compare like what meeting bot has a better way of giving me the transcript. So that kicks me out of my actual productivity and then distracts me on like improving my workflows. That way, first of all, you have a second chance to decide, do you really want to work on that, and when is a good time to work on that, and also that allows you to have those things accumulate over time. So some of them you'll notice them a lot, but they're not important and you can just live with them. And others you will discover, like maybe you just had them one time, but you really want to fix them, and you keep thinking of them, you keep seeing them in that list, and then you do them. And I think that's a great way, for me at least, to prioritize things and not be stuck in fixing everything immediately.
Okay, awesome. So what are some kind of typical things that you would see on this to-do list that you collected that makes the biggest impact to improving your workflow?
Yeah, so I mean, you probably remember I'm a big fan of keyboard shortcuts. Writing my own shortcuts is still something that you would find on that list from time to time. Then there's other things like automations. Like one thing that I have at the moment is whenever I do meetings, I have a meeting bot, so it records the meeting, but then I want to put that meeting in a particular place, and I don't only want the transcript, I need the summaries and the notes, and like there's a couple of steps. So that also is something that I would then automate. So that's still sitting on my list because I notice it from time to time, but I haven't quite decided like, okay, should I really invest in that? Should I do that now? But these kind of like workflow automations is something on there. Yeah, another thing I noticed is I think I told you about it, are kind of the way I deal with notifications and the whole kind of setup of my screen. Like, and I got a little bit obsessed by it. Like in the past, I had this concept of I want everything at my fingers touch. Like so my screen had a lot of information, and like a lot of things were visible, like how many Slack messages there left, kind of what's my next calendar entry, like just everything was on the screen, and I had like small font size so more stuff would fit on it and so on. And then over time, I noticed that on my list there would be things where I was trying to go for more focus and more clarity and like uh, less information from unrelated contexts. So really trying to limit the amount of information and say, yes, I want to get to information quickly. So I still have launcher shortcuts that can bring up files very quick by just typing a couple of letters. But not everything should be visible. When I'm writing something, or when I'm in Miro designing a workflow or something, then that is my primary focus, and everything else should rather go away. And so now I went to kind of hiding the shortcuts, kind of not having too many tabs open at once, like really closing stuff down when I'm done with a task. So all of these things came from like my improvement and trying to work towards like giving myself more single focus time, as I call it. Yeah.
All right, so keeping good workflow hygiene is essential so that you don't lose your focus on what actually matters.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know, but there are some applications they even have like a Zen mode where you put the application in kind of full screen, and it hides a lot of its own interface, so you can really focus on what you're doing. And yeah, I think that's a big part in it. And we talked about it before. I do have some ideas how to take that even further, and I think there's a limitation of how currently software kind of handles our attention. Basically, some people even talk of like attention economy, and like we're all kind of a little bit we're easy to distract, and we want to be distracted. And I think there's a lot of work and needs a lot of discipline to kind of like work against that basically, and set yourself up for like boundaries, and take healthy breaks, and not kind of the kind of rabbit hole or infinite scrolling kind of breaks where you open a new tab and it's cat pictures. So yeah,
Definitely,
I think
definitely.
that's really important to limit the distractions you have and give yourself back this ability to focus. Yeah.
Awesome. So could you just share a bit more about this shortcut? You said writing your own shortcut. Like for some non-technical person, what are the opportunities of shortcuts and how do you get to write your own?
Yeah, I mean, like maybe it's a little bit more technical, so to do, but like if you fancy, like one thing I hate doing is repeating myself, right? So there are applications out there, like for example, text expander is a accessible one. Like auto hotkey is maybe a little bit more advanced, but it's really, or the one I'm using is actually called Espanzo. Basically, what it allows you to do is define snippets. So when I type something like TEL for telephone, I put a colon in front, so it's like colon TEL, and then it expands it to my telephone number, or my LinkedIn profile page, and like little things like that for Calendly, something I
Yeah.
repeat in emails, and yeah,
Then instead of opening a tab, finding the link, copy, and then copy
yeah,
paste, then instead you could just go directly where you would have pasted,
yeah,
and then you write your little code instead.
yeah. I write like two dots, like colon CAL for calendar, and then it automatically replaces that with a link to my calendar wherever I am. Yeah. And that is something like I couldn't live without, because I would just like die doing the steps you said. Because one of the biggest problems for me in this interruption of flow is like it just takes me out of what I'm doing, right? Like, and while I'm then doing something that is very mundane, like where I actually know what's going to happen, I know this is a new tab, this is where I find the link, then I copy it, then I paste it. Like this takes like, I don't know, 3 4 seconds, but it's not about the time I'm wasting there. It's because my mind is bored, then it will go on and think other things. And also this kind of like, for example, opening a new tab is a very dangerous thing, because you go to your browser and suddenly there are all these other tabs that are ripe with distraction. So, and then you discover something and like, oh yeah, I meant to finish that. And like, and then you're conflicted, or at least I am, about like, okay, where should I go back to? Like, should I finish what I was doing, or should I now continue this thing that I found? And then along the way, I might even be annoyed with something totally unrelated that is productivity related. This kind of like, oh, how do I actually close a tab with a shortcut? Or. So for me, it's very dangerous, and that's why it's super important that I have these things that allow me to stay in the scope of what I'm doing.
Okay, so improving your workflow at the computer is not so much about saving 30 seconds there, 2 minutes
Yeah,
there.
no,
It's not about the time. It's
no.
about you staying on track with what you wanted to do and
Yeah,
keep your focus with that.
yeah, I'm not an expert on those things, but I heard of this kind of concept of like achieving this mental flow state. And that's what shortcuts and workflow improvements are about for me. Like I also like to talk about it. It's not about being faster, it's about being virtuoso. Like another software that I'm a big fan of is Miro, actually. And Miro is a way for me to express thoughts, and also to collaborate with others, and like to track the thoughts we're collectively expressing, that we're collaborating on. And it's so important that there are no interruptions, right? That you can just like do things and they happen in a predictable way, and they're fast. There's no waiting times, there's no loading. You know, because then you get very, very close to the flow of your brain and of that kind of collective collaboration.
So speaking about flow, what's your stand on this notification? Oh, you got a message on WhatsApp, you got a message there, there's some
Yeah,
notifications. Like, what do you do with this?
I try to hide them. I try to limit it. I put away the visual indications. I disabled sound notifications. Most apps, I disabled notifications altogether. I'm very aware of their kind of distractive potential. We're working on a software project, as you know, and one of the goals, or I hope that our software development toolkit is picked up to build a software that helps with notification, because I think notifications, there's no good solution yet, because they're all like you have like on and off switches now, right? And you can configure configuration or notifications per person and say like, okay, this guy is VIP, I want to see everything. But that falls too short. I think like there's an overlap between like who's sending the notification, what is it about, and what am I currently working on, and the combination of those things that should determine if I need to be interrupted or not.
Thank you very much, Jan. So you all know what to do. Keep a separate to-do list of things that distract you, and
Yeah.
then set aside a time where you're gonna pick the things that you want to tackle one by one when the time is for that. But don't let that to-do list interrupt your main to-do list.
Yeah.
And and then by all means, go check out the world of shortcuts, not to spend less time writing your telephone number, but to be less distracted and to maintain flow.
Yeah. Yeah, well said, Rico. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Jens. Thank you very much. Enjoyed this talk very much.